Almost 60% of people that we surveyed under the age of 40 prefer an AI-assisted response to no response or voicemail.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The thing that caught my eye on this was or voicemail. So this isn't just AI responding to a Facebook message or a text. This is actually an AI answering the phone. We asked lawyers in this study, do you have dedicated intake? And 9 out of 10 said yes. But when we dug deeper, what we found is that really about 70% of those that said yes, actually those people that they're dedicated intake also have other jobs in the firm. This is a sales job at the end of the day.
I was going there.
All right. Welcome back. So we are about to release some really interesting new research around the legal industry. One of the things that I wanted to call out and talk about today is this decision window from when people decide they need an attorney to when they hire an attorney. And that window is around 4 days on average. So quite interesting. The follow-on piece, though, that was more interesting is in that window, 80% of people contact multiple attorneys. And that is up from about 65% the year before. So what do you think about this?
I think there are certain areas probably where it's a little faster than 4 days.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Well,
I mean, I don't want anybody to hold on to, well, not for me. And this is obviously in general, right? You know, like criminal defense stuff, you need someone right that second, obviously. But, you know, I've actually seen it with a lot of our family law firms where it can be as much as 6 weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because there's a lot more to it, right? There's houses, 401ks, kids, this, that, and the other, right? But I think 4 days is probably a good average in there. Doesn't surprise me. I think that as we've been talking about, you know, with AI and informational type searches, I think that the consumers are getting more educated.
Sure.
And they're getting smarter about what they need to look out for and talk to. So I think they solve a lot of issues before they even reach out to attorneys, right? Or get a lot of their information, I guess I should say, right? So by the time they are reaching out, like we talked about in a previous episode, by the time they're reaching out, they're pretty much ready, you know, and then I think it just becomes who they're going to hire at that point in time, right? Which is to the second point of that of contacting multiple firms, you know. And I think there's a lot of people who, well, let's say it this way, it's a big deal hiring an attorney. I mean, you're putting your life in their hands, right? And so I think it would be silly to hire the first person you called, you know? I mean, like, why not call a bunch and make sure that you feel comfortable with their knowledge in this, you know, whatever area it might be, and then they can help you individually, right?
Yeah. I think the follow on that, though, is if you do want to increase, if you are the first attorney that they contact, and you want to maximize the opportunity to actually be the one that they end up choosing to hire, that intake process, and we've talked about that on probably we've touched on it every episode, but your intake process is really, really important. Like I know this seems simple, people, but again, we manage marketing for thousands of law firms across the country. One of the things that we measure is their intake, and we can just tell you across the board, the data does not lie. This is a facts over feelings thing. The majority of law firms still have way too many calls going to voicemail, sitting on hold. You know, you could argue sometimes not, even when they do answer, not having the smoothest intake process. So I just think that this is really, really critical. If there's one thing that I think firms should take away from this piece of content, from this episode, is like go really dig in and make sure that your intake is as good as you want it to be.
I mean, we've seen it where, you know, they may contact multiple law firms who might all happen to be Scorpion clients, and you know, the ones that don't pick up, they're obviously not going to get the case, you know, and someone else does. People can debate whether, you know, I wholeheartedly agree that, you know, being first, you know, your chances are going to go up a lot higher.
Sure.
But people may want to debate that, fine. But what I can promise you is if you don't answer,
Yeah.
the odds are
your odds
very,
are
very
significantly
low, that you're going to get that case, right?
Yeah.
Because they are going to call multiple people, and if they talk to 3 or 4 and they get the warm and fuzzies from somebody, they're not going to wait for you to call back, right?
Yeah.
They've already made that decision. And again, 4 days that's a pretty quick thing,
Yeah. So in this same research, we interviewed, we surveyed both lawyers and we surveyed clients, people who have hired attorneys. So there's different angles here. One of the questions we asked lawyers in this study, I'm interested in your perspective on this, is do you have dedicated intake? And 9 out of 10 said yes. But when we dug deeper, what we found is that really about 70% of those that said yes, actually those people that they're dedicated intake also have other jobs in the firm. Receptionist,
yeah.
They're maybe a paralegal in some cases.
Yep.
So what's your thought on truly dedicated intake versus multitasker intake? What's your point of view there?
Absolutely, you need to have dedicated people to do this, right?
What if you're a small firm, though, and you don't really get a lot of inbound cases? Like, do you still need that?
You need to have someone who knows that this is of the utmost importance.
Okay, fair,
right?
fair.
I think, maybe, if you're only getting 30 calls a month or something like that,
Sure.
you're not going to hire a full-time person because they're going to be twiddling their thumbs most of the time, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But they need to understand that maybe they do have other responsibilities, but when a new client call comes in, right, they need to be jumping on that and treating that with kid gloves and doing the thing, because it is that important for them, right? It's their, first impressions are everything,
sure.
Right? And this is your first impression with someone who's busy and they're, hold on. And, like receptionists oftentimes, put you on hold. Okay, hold on. No one wants to go through that.
Sure.
Right? You're going to get upset and you're going to be like, these people don't have time for me already and I haven't even signed up yet. What are they going to do when I actually sign up with them? Are they going to be too busy to answer my calls? You know? So it's a bad first impression. Certainly when you get to a certain size, the number of cases you generate every single month, you need that for revenue to keep the firm operating.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
And, if you're not touching 20% of your leads because you're too busy with other things, that could be 20% of your cases walking out the door.
Yeah.
So I absolutely think you should have a system, right?
Of course.
Not pen and paper, but you should have some sort of software to keep track of your leads as well too.
Yeah.
To remember to follow up with this particular client, make it easy for them to sign up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about a lot of the big advertisers, they talk about how easy it is to sign up.
Absolutely.
Because that's something that, it's scary hiring lawyers, right? And if you can give them a great experience, answer their questions, right, and make it easy to sign up, your chances of landing that case go up substantially.
Yeah. So if you're in that profile of firm that wants to grow, like wants to acquire more cases, then what I'm hearing is the answer is you need a dedicated person or group of people who are in charge and their role is intake. You need a system, not pen and paper, right? You need some type of technology, case management system, lead management system, to actually document that intake process and make sure that you're triggering follow-ups and things of that nature. And then if you're on the smaller size, and like you said, you're getting a call a day on average, maybe not a dedicated person, but that person that you do task with it needs to know that is the number one priority.
That should be their top priority job. Right?
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. And they need to have some skill too. Like, it's the other thing is like you need to have people skills in this role.
Yeah, this is not something, it actually see, I think we see in general, people make this mistake that, I just have to answer the phone. And no, there's actually skill involved, right? Like, again, you're competing. This is a sales job at the end of the day.
I was going there, yeah.
This is a sales job, right? So you need to actually be able to train and onboard your people that are charged with answering the phone on how you want that process to be. What do you want them to say? What information about you and the firm do you want them to communicate? That's really, really important. I think that's a great call out because it's not just about a body picking the phone up.
Yep. I mean, there's a reason why, salespeople are among the most highest paid, positions, right?
True.
Like, anybody can pick up the phone and call people, or they can, go visit a potential customer, right? Do whatever. Like, of course, everybody can do that, but not everybody is good at it, right? And those that are worth their weight in gold, right? Because they're the ones that can close deals. They can get people to see what what you have to offer. And it's the same thing here, right? Like, firms are all different. They have different skill sets. They have different strengths, different weaknesses. And for someone to be able to effectively communicate that to the client, make them feel comfortable, your close rate's going to go up a lot higher.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. I was actually talking to the owner of a big firm in South Texas on Friday, and he was telling me a story about his dad. His dad sold janitorial products when he was a kid. And he said he was having this conversation with his dad. This is years after he became an attorney. And he was just like, Dad, like, why didn't you go the path of attorney or something more prestigious? And he said, what are you talking about prestigious? Like, we're in the same line of business. And he said, this guy said, I don't know. I'm an attorney. What are you talking about? And his dad said, no, you're a sales guy.
Yep.
You just have a fancy title.
You're selling in 12 people in a jury box, right?
That's it. That's
what you're doing.
He said that was his big aha moment whenever he realized, hey, like, I actually own a business. I'm not just an attorney. I own a business. And yeah, I want to grow. I want to be one of the biggest and the best. That means I've actually got to become a marketing and a sales machine.
Yep.
So it's a great call out.
The biggest ones, the biggest firms signing up the most cases have the most well-oiled intake process.
Yes.
Right? And that's not an accident.
No, you're right.
They focus on it. They make it so that it's easy for people to sign up, and then they naturally sign up more cases.
That's right. Last stat having to do with this, and this is, again, we talk about this. It's only a matter of time before we get around to AI on this podcast. But in this research that we did, almost 60% of people that we surveyed under the age of 40 prefer an AI-assisted response to no response or voicemail.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I think the thing that caught my eye on this was or voicemail. So this isn't just AI responding to a message lead or a Google LSA or a Facebook message or a text. This is actually an AI answering the phone.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think my wife said it best. She called somebody for something the other day, and she's like, they didn't answer their phone. Like, it's 2026. Like, what business doesn't answer their phone?
Well, there's unfortunately there are a lot.
Yeah. I know there are. Yeah. It's crazy to me that people think that, like, because she, just like me, just like you and everybody else, is just going to move on down the line to the next person.
Yeah, that's right.
If you can't answer your phone, like, I don't want to do business with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way most people are. We live in a 24-hour day, 7 days a week world. Everything's always on,
Yeah.
You want something, maybe the grocery store's not open right now, but I can jump online and order it and it'll be here tomorrow morning.
Yeah, very true.
And it's the same thing, like people, a lot of people maybe have like a job where you're stuck at your desk, maybe you're a salesperson, you're expected to make a certain amount of dials.
Yeah.
You don't have 10 minutes to pick up the phone and call, a lawyer or a plumber or anything. Really,
yeah.
Right? Like you have certain windows where that's when you have your time to do it. And if you can't talk to that person then, you're going to move to someone you can.
Yeah. So you got a short window. It's a matter of days. It could be shorter in some cases, maybe longer in a few cases. Yeah. But the window is pretty short. You're going to be probably one of at least 2 to 5 that's going to be considered. And to give yourself the best chance, you really need to make sure that you've got your intake dialed in. And by the way, I know we talk about AI sometimes can be scary, but our research says that almost 50%, almost 60% of the people that we surveyed under the age of 40 at least, say they'd rather talk to AI than get a voicemail, right? So take that into consideration. Do with it what you will. Another consideration point.
I would say one thing that
you're not gonna let me move.
No. Well, I mean, it just kind of popped in my head, but it's something we see a lot better actually in our home services businesses is online scheduling.
Oh, good call out.
That's something that I don't think we've really cracked in the legal world. I mean, not necessarily but like there's only a few of the CRMs and practice management softwares that have scheduling that you can do.
Yeah.
And it becomes an issue because they don't have dedicated, intake people. But like that is something that in the home services world works amazing. You can hop online at 9 o'clock, schedule, the plumber shows up the next day at 10 a.m. and you don't even have to talk to anybody.
That's true. It's funny you mentioned that. I have last night I got home and one of my HVAC systems, like
I swear it's every podcast something's going on.
I know, man. Well, it's crazy. But the drain clean out, like the HVAC drain clean out, like one of them is in my garage and it leaks like because it's clogged up.
Yeah.
And I do the whole white vinegar water concoction thing. But anyway, I was just like, I should probably get this checked out. But I went upstairs and like literally found a HVAC company scheduled it on my phone last night for Friday because I work from home on Fridays typically. And it was that easy. So,
and think about
why do you think attorneys are not dialed into that? Why aren't they enabling that online scheduling from their website more often?
They just don't. They may not have a dedicated intake team. They haven't figured out how to work the calendar yet. So in home services, right? Like you have field service management, and you're dispatching, routing all your technicians, so you control their schedule through the software already.
Of course.
So it's a lot easier to just turn on this, the schedule to have this particular tech go out, right? Versus like with this, if they only have one person and they're on the phone, then they can't pick up, and get off the phone and call that 10 o'clock appointment. So there's some issues in there, but it's something that we need to work with people and get this figured out, because it saves an initial call, which all you're doing is scheduling for another time anyway. So you literally can wipe out a call in 5 minutes of somebody's time, and also just provide that flexibility. Because if someone wants to schedule late at night, then they have to think about it and call the next day. Again, it's just removing a step. They just directly schedule when they have availability, right? And they're going to be guaranteed to have that availability most likely, right? So I think it's something that needs to happen. I think people need to bite the bullet and have some sort of scheduling software, and then we need to be able to just integrate with it.
Do you think that some of the hesitancy could be this mindset of the attorney that tells them this story that my client would never book online because their situation is unique and it bears explanation before they would actually schedule an appointment?
I think so. I think there's some of that. There's also, like in family law, you have to do conflict checks to make sure that you haven't already talked to the other party, for example. Sure. So they're kind of hesitant for that because, they don't want to talk to someone and because that can get them in trouble.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So, there's all kinds of weird issues, but really none of it, if you take a step back, like you have to answer the initial call anyways. You have to still do all this stuff, right? But the increase in people that you'll see and actually have consultations with will go up. It'll be worth waiting.
Yeah, of course. Even if you start with just kind of the workflow being scheduling your intake call, right? At least that gives your intake specialist some time to prepare.
That's right.
Right, and it gets something on the calendar. It's another way to convert somebody that was on your website into a potential lead. So I think that's a great call out that we didn't really hit on initially is, and again, this goes back to just giving your potential clients multiple opportunities to reach you in whatever way they see fit. Could be a call, could be a form on your website, could be a AI chat bot on your website, it could be an online scheduling piece. So good call out.
This episode is brought to you by Scorpion. Trust is built in public and reviews matter more than ever. Scorpion helps your firm generate consistent, high-quality reviews and showcase them everywhere so clients choose you with confidence. Visit scorpion.co to learn more.
Moving on, but kind of staying in the same vein, because again, this plays into someone's decision to work with hire an attorney or not hire an attorney. In this same research, we uncovered that 75% of consumers will not consider a law firm who has below a 4-star average review rating on their Google business profile. Does this surprise you? By the way, that number's gone up year over year as well.
Yep, absolutely. Doesn't surprise me at all. I think I said on one of the earlier podcasts, like we're in an Amazon world, right? Like you jump on there, whatever widget you're going to buy, like you don't know what's good or bad, and you don't know a brand name, right? But if you see one that's got a 4.7 with 5,000 reviews and another with a 4.1 and 30 reviews, you're going to go with the 4.7, right?
Course.
Because 5,000 people can't be wrong. It's kind of in your head, right? It's a very similar thing here. I think we're going to talk about the stat in a little bit, but like also they're going to read the reviews.
100%.
Consistently
100%.
Bad things about them, right? You're going to be like, why do I want to call this and go through that same experience?
Right. Right.
Another thing that is not in that research, but if you have below a 4.5, your Google business profile won't show for searches like best or top.
I was going to touch on that. I'm glad you brought that up, because this isn't just about convincing a consumer that you are credible.
Yep.
It's also about convincing the Google machine and, by the way, other AI platforms, because reviews are a big trigger for those as well. So 4.5, or if you're below 4.5, you're not going to get triggered for
your best, for best top, like qualitative type searches.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And that comes into play with some of our, really higher end firms a lot of times who don't do a lot of cases, so they can't get a lot of reviews. They're also very, very selective is the right word about the cases they take. So they end up making people kind of upset because they go on their site, they see they're the greatest attorney in the world, right? Everybody thinks their case is a slam dunk case. Everybody thinks their case is the greatest case ever, of course, right? Because it's yours and it's personal. So when they get turned down, they get upset and they leave bad reviews about them, only wanting the best cases or whatever. So they end up naturally, accruing some bad reviews.
Yeah.
But then they're not being proactive about getting positive ones.
That's right.
So then their star rating now is a 4.1 or 4.2, right? And then they're upset because they're not showing for best whatever lawyer in whatever city,
right?
And it's like, well, kind of back to what we were just talking about. You got to fix your intake process.
Yeah.
Come up with an excuse. Tell them you're just too busy or full. Your caseload's full or something.
Sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
Don't just be like, pass them off because it's just going to make them upset.
Yeah, of course. I think the other thing, and you talked about reading the reviews, I think that's the other call out here is that, again, stakes are really, really high for people that need an attorney.
Yep.
Right. So if you're all of your Google reviews are kind of just chock full of, would hire again, love the experience, that's probably not going to be very convincing. Mm-hmm. I would argue that you may have even paid for that review. Hopefully that wasn't you. But I mean, I think the more context that you can get, or that you can give potential clients who are reading your reviews through those reviews, the better. And I know that you can't control all that but you can guide
some crazy people. Yeah,
but you can guide some people on like, hey, it'd be really helpful if you mentioned some of the detail without being too specific.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things we do is we coach our clients to get reviews, and the importance of it. Yeah, there's a bunch of different angles you can use to kind of pull at someone's heartstrings to make them feel obligated to do it. But I mean, I always tell this story of like, I've bought a bunch of cars before, and of course, as soon as you buy a car, right, or lease a car, you get 1,000 surveys. I've never filled one out. There was this one guy one time was right with his handing the keys to us. He kind of pulled it back. He was like, "Oh, by the way, would you mind, going on Google and just saying something positive about me? Because I get a little spiff if you call me out." Right. And so I felt kind of obligated, and it was a great experience, right? So of course I went home and I left him a review. And I've told the story 1,000 times. I still, to this day, have never left another review other than that one guy because he specifically asked me, like, right as he's handing the keys, pulled them back, and I was like, absolutely. He didn't make me feel bad, just kind of tugged at the heart a little bit.
Those are the glory days of reviews, though, a little bit, because now there's actually a lot of new guidance specifically from Google on, making sure that you're not incentivizing and gamifying and calling specific people out too much, right? Because it's can kind of be seen as paying to play a little bit, and I don't think Google loves that, but I've had similar experiences in the past as well. Look, at the end of the day, like people that are reading your reviews, they see themselves through the lens of the people that have reviewed you. Yep. Right? Like, so they're putting themselves in those people's positions. Like, hey, if I hire this firm, am I going to have a positive experience like this? Yep. I think that's an important thing to remember.
I've also seen there's a bunch of studies. The one of them came out from Google a couple of years ago, so it's actually a little bit higher now. But 88% of people trust online reviews just as much as a personal recommendation. 100%. Yes. Right. And there was some studies done as far back as 2012 where that was only like 71, 72, 73%. Yeah. And some recent studies within the last like 6 months or so put it closer to like 90, 91%. Right. And so, and again, it's like it's their story. They see it, And I can't tell you how many clients we harp on them, get reviews. They finally get on the train. They start doing it. And then a year later, they're like, I hate to say this, but you were right. I just landed one of the biggest cases this year. That's right. And they specifically told me, I called you because you had the best reviews.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you can't, at the end of the day, you can't discount like human psychology. Mm-hmm. And, gone are the days where you pick up the phone and you ask anybody in your circle, hey, have you done X, Y, and Z? And if you have, what's your experience like? Yeah. We don't do that anymore. Like, we just look at the star ratings. Could be Amazon, could be looking at restaurant reviews on Yelp. But all of that inertia translates into other bigger decisions like hiring an attorney does.
Yeah,
so
they'll ask strangers online.
Yeah, of course.
Not your friend group. You just go on some, Facebook group and be like, who's really good at whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think these things just really, they honestly, all they do is they point back to the things that we constantly talk to our clients about. And we want to advise, if you're not a client and you're watching this, the importance of, again, providing great experiences, which includes intake, includes doing your best in the courtroom or through whatever case management you've got to do to actually get the clients the outcome that they want, asking them to talk about it, and then making sure that your digital presence kind of reflects your expertise and your unique point of view. All these things just kind of point to how important and critical those facts are. So let's move on to our final topic. We're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about advertising. Mm-hmm. And there are some really interesting new emerging ad channels that are starting to catch a little bit of steam. We're going to save, what I think is probably the most talked about for last.
Okay.
But I want to start with one that may or may not be relevant to law firms, and that is Apple Map ads. So what's your perspective? I've got one. Is this relevant or is this not relevant?
Look, everything's relevant. Any way and every way people can find you, you should. Look, I have clients that'll write in about something and not ranking somewhere or seeing a different result. And I'm like, I'm looking at it. I've searched from your area, and they send me a screenshot, and they're using Bing, and they think they're Googling it, right?
Sure.
So, a lot of people don't even realize what they're using a lot of times.
Yeah.
They just don't know. Second part of that is what's the percentage of iPhone users in the world? It's a lot, 55, 60%, something like that.
Yeah.
So Apple wants you to stay in their ecosystem, right? And so it's just another opportunity, another channel.
Yeah.
Right? Like people discount Bing ads, for example. And I'm not jumping off the topic of Apple, but even if it's a small percentage, 8 to 10% of what you could spend, say, on like Google, the cost per case acquisition is significantly cheaper.
Sure.
Right? So maybe you'll never be able to spend $15,000 a month on Apple, map ads.
Yeah.
But let's say you spend $500 and get a case. Is it worth it? Of course it is.
Sure.
It's a cheap case. Why not?
Yeah, I think it's funny. We talked about this on Book Solid, our home services podcast. I was vehemently against. I'm like, how is this relevant to a plumber or HVAC? You don't need to know where they're located.
Yeah.
Right? And you could argue the same for an attorney, but you made a great point that BQ on that podcast made, which is, look, it's a new channel on a product, the iPhone, that almost everyone has. Mm-hmm. And the inventory, the advertising inventory is probably relatively cheap.
Yep.
So why not allocate at least a little bit of budget there and test it for a while? One of the things that BQ said that I thought was interesting that bears worth repeating is that when you try any new emerging channel as a business, and if you think about this is like classic, like your bell curve of adoption of products.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're in that early adopter, like on the front end of that bell, you're going to get some benefits that people later on that do it aren't going to get, like cheaper access or access to cheaper inventory in the case of advertising. So, but I think the mindset to go into this with that BQ called out was that you shouldn't go into a new ad channel like this immediately through the lens of like ROAS, return on ad spend, right? You should think about this through the lens of what can I learn through this experiment?
Yep.
Like, what are the things that I'm going to kind of figure out and identify that may be helpful if I decide to spend more, or maybe a good learning so that the next time something comes up, I'm like, well, I remember learning this and I need to watch out for that happening here.
Yep. I would also add to that just that you're not going to replace Google. There's not going to be something that's going to pop up and completely replace Google.
No, of course not.
I look at it more about like diversifying, and just being everywhere where people are searching.
Yeah, like just to put it a little bit more like a little bit more realistic, I would say, and again, debate this, but if your ad budget is $10,000 a month on digital, right? I would say you may consider allocating $250 to $500 max on something like Apple ads.
But go into it, and we're running some, still kind of early stages and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we always want to diversify and try to find, because at the end of the day, people, you spend money in advertising to generate cases.
Absolutely.
Right? Not leads, cases.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot of other things kind of going on right now in the Apple ecosystem that you may have heard about. If not, you'll hear about really soon. They've just done a deal with Google where they say Gemini is going to kind of power Siri. So if the Siri product, which by the way really sucks, it's horrible. Let's just call a spade, but if it actually gets better through these integrations and they make investments there, if Siri becomes the de facto kind of AI assistant that I talk to all the time, guess what? Apple Ads is an Apple product. Siri is an Apple product. There could be a lot of immediate kind of overlap and opportunity. Yeah. Again, if you're that early adopter, to take advantage of that movement. Again, that's still TBD, but just want you to think ahead about what this could become, right? Assuming that Apple kind of starts to take advantage of all this AI and things that are happening in that world.
Yeah, they've been obviously really focused on hardware.
Yes.
But I personally think they've left a lot on the table with
what
they could be doing.
So far.
But it seems like they're plugging some of the holes in the bucket, I think.
Yeah, and look, from the hardware perspective, it's only a matter of time before some level of these AI is able to run natively on a device like an iPhone.
Yep.
And you don't need to connect to the cloud all the time. If that happens, again, that opens up a whole new world to Apple, right? So, so Apple Map Ads, may want to give it a shot. If you do, a couple of $100 just to see if it spins. Make sure that you're got good measurement in place. You got good call swapping and call tracking. So if you get clicks from Apple Maps to your website, you swap the phone number, make sure you can track the call, do all those good things. If you're getting value from the show, follow us wherever you listen to podcasts and share this episode with an attorney who needs to hear it. New episodes drop every other week. I think, first of all, our point of view on any of these things, the new ad channels, is that the more diversified you can be, the better it is for your firm.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're putting all your chips into the Google Ads ecosystem, traditional Google paid search ads, even LSAs now, like you're just betting on a very expensive proposition, right? And acquiring new clients and cases. There's all these other channels, Bing today, some directories where you can run ads, meta ads, channels like ChatGPT. Those are all going to be more cost effective in the short term relative to Google.
Absolutely.
So the more budget that you can effectively spend in those places, the more it's going to impact in a positive way your cost per lead, which then impacts your cost per case acquisition. All these things kind of travel downhill. So yeah, I think what we want, and again, what I think one of the benefits that Scorpion brings to the table is that we've made massive investments in building our own advertising platform that plugs into all of these channels once they have the API capabilities to do so. And one of the benefits of working with us is that we want to take your entire budget and we want to just deploy it across the places where you're getting the most efficiency.
Yeah, we want your ad dollars to go where you can get the cheapest, best cases.
That's right. That's right.
Most agencies are, I don't want to say lazy, but lazy is kind of a word for it, right? Like it's a lot of work to go set up an Apple Ads account and a Bing account and
that's
a Meta
the thing.
account.
It's a lot of work. I don't even know if it's lazy.
Like $200-$300 in there, right? Because still right now, 95% of your budget's going to go to Google.
Of course.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of work to go set this little thing up and this thing up and this thing up at $200 per one, and then monitor each one of those and optimize each one of those, because you can't optimize those the same way you optimize Google. Right?
Yeah.
It's not one button and it affects everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, again, like you said, technology-wise, we, have been able to go out and we can pull a lot of the data in, and then we can optimize it from the same screen, right?
Yep.
And even things like budget management, right? It can handle that across all of the platforms without us having to go in, and we can just focus on making it better, right? And getting better quality leads.
Yep. One other ad channel I do want to talk about that I think is going to be, I actually think this is probably one of the more greenfield opportunities for attorneys, is TikTok ads. Again, I think one of the interesting things about TikTok is that, like a lot of these AI platforms, it is a good research platform, right? Like it is a place where I can go. It could be I'm traveling someplace and I want to do research on things to do in a different country or restaurants to go to. Or it could be, hey, here is a situation And if you have attorneys that are willing to film video content that answer those questions, massive opportunity.
Yeah, I think the last statement you just made, though, is key to it, is they're willing, and want to go do it.
Yeah.
Not everybody is going to be a TikTok star, and that's saying that in the nicest way. Not everybody's cut out to be a TikTok person.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Because you got to be engaging. You have to be someone wants to watch, someone wants to listen to, But if you are, and you can put the time and effort into it, it absolutely can be a great place to grow brand awareness and then get actual cases for them.
Absolutely. And again, one of the more powerful things that everybody talks about within TikTok is the algorithm.
Yeah.
Right? Like somehow it finds like the content that I want to know about, and when I open up the app, it just starts feeding it to me.
Yep.
I think that's the interesting thing about advertising on TikTok, is that you're going to get some benefits of like a really powerful targeting algorithm. And yeah, to your point, if you are of the type of person, or you have somebody in your firm that's really great on camera, that's really engaging, and you can find ways to deliver content and answer questions that are on the minds of your potential clients, it's a great avenue. And again, probably a very cost-effective one. By the way, we did a partnership with TikTok. That's an ad channel that we're really starting to deploy new campaigns against. Again, we're super high on video. We believe video is a big differentiator, both organically from a website conversion perspective and from an ad channel perspective. Yep. So if you're not checking out TikTok, we highly encourage you to do that.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for this one. Remember, leads are good, cases are better. Until next time.